listening to the Wonder Women of Aviation, a podcast that helps preserve the history of women in aviation and highlights women involved in aviation.
Hello and welcome to the Wonder Women of Aviation podcast. We're live at 2022 Oshkosh AirVenture. I'm here with an amazing pilot that I learned so much about, Vickie Benzing. But before I get into the interview, this podcast is sponsored by Extreme Flight in partnership with Level Aviation. So Vickie, I learned so much about you yesterday. I went to a panel with all women in aviation. So let's talk about, first of all, who you are for those that do not know who Vickie is. Who is Vickie? If you were to describe Vickie in an adjective, who's Vickie?
I'm not sure I can describe myself in an adjective. Unless you maybe say I'm pretty passionate about flying.
Okay.
Gosh, who am I? I was born and raised in California. I learned to fly when I was in college, and I've been flying for 40 years now.
4 years?
40 years.
Okay, I was like
40. And flying was not my career. My career, I have a PhD in chemistry. I went to Berkeley, and I had a career in Silicon Valley. So air shows are really a second career for me.
Okay.
But flying has always been a passion through my life, and I believe that flying is life-changing, and it's just been so incredible for me. It's always been a thread through my whole life. So I don't know if that describes me, but it describes my history.
It does. It absolutely does. So you fly two different types of aircraft, you were telling me. So you fly a Stearman, and you also fly an extra, correct?
In the air shows, I fly two different types of aircraft. But I've flown many different aircraft. Okay. I've probably flown 50 different aircraft.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's an amazing 50 different aircraft. That's amazing. But initially, I want to go back to what really inspired you, because I learned that your father was an electrical engineer. He was an engineer?
Oh, yeah. My father was an electrical engineer, so I was always interested in math and science. I loved math and science. And it's probably good that I went and started on my career in chemistry and high tech before I really developed the passion for flying, or I might have just gone that direction in flying. But I worked in Silicon Valley, and it was a very rewarding career. And I guess I would suggest that any young people to focus on math and science, because there are so many jobs out there, and so many very rewarding jobs, and so many problems to be solved. And I was in the silicon business, chip making, and I believe that the work that we did really did truly change the world. I mean, and the fact that you get a new cell phone every year that's more capable of doing things for less price is a testament to all the hard work of all the engineers in Silicon Valley.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, engineering is a big part of our world.
Yeah. And chips are in everything. I mean, they're in cars, they're in toys, they're in everything.
In airplanes?
In airplanes. Certainly in the avionics.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to, obviously you still are passionate about engineering, but get into actually flying? You said you've been flying for 40 years.
Yeah.
Who inspired you? Who was the first person that said, okay, I want to do that, and on top of it, I want to perform aerobatics in the air?
Well, my uncle was an air show and air race pilot.
Okay.
And he had one of the very first pit specials. And so I was exposed to it when I was a young kid. In fact, I can remember the first time I ever went flying was with my uncle, and I was so young I didn't know if those were toy houses or real houses and cars on the ground.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something I thought that I could do as a young woman. I just, I grew up in a middle-class family, and we didn't have the means to do that, and I just didn't really think that was something that was for me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until much later when one of my buddies asked me to go out and go skydiving, and I started skydiving, and I fell in love with being in the air, and I knew that if I learned to fly, I could be up in the air more.
Wow.
That I came home and said, I really have to learn how to fly. And I was pretty fortunate that one of my father's friends had a small airplane that he let me learn to fly in for the cost of the fuel and the instructor. And so I go out to the airport every Saturday and take a lesson, because that's all I could afford. Right. And I got my license in 5 or 6 months. And And the very first time I got in the airplane and flew it, I knew it was going to be something that was going to be for my whole life. And I have to say, husbands have come and gone, but flying's always stayed. Careers have come and gone, but flying's always stayed.
It's interesting you mentioned the pits. My husband, who's an Airshow pilot, Patrick Mackley, for those of you that don't know, flies the pits. So that leads me to ask, out of all the 50-plus aircraft that you've flown, what is your baby? What is, the one that your go-to? We all have favorite food, favorite pizza. What is your favorite airplane that makes you...
Well, I own a few airplanes, and everybody asks me, which one do you like the best? And it's sort of like, which child do you like the best? And if you say one, then the others get pissed off. So
I was the favorite.
Yeah. Probably if I had to reduce it down to one of them, I would pick my Lancer Legacy. It is so much fun to fly, and it's so fast, and it's like a magic carpet ride, and it does everything well, except for maybe it's a little fast to land, but it's a really fun airplane to fly. And,
really? Okay. I'm not familiar, but I'm definitely going to research. I'm learning all my aircraft.
Each airplane has its own niche or a thing it's good at. So the Extra's really fun. It's nimble. It can do plus or minus 10 G. You can do anything you can imagine in it. And then some things you can't imagine. The Stearman is wonderful. It's open cockpit biplane, slow,
beautiful,
nostalgic. You fly by, people wave at you instead of curse at you.
It's such a majestic plane.
It's really great airplane. I think they all have their own little niche, and they're all great in their own way.
That's a fair answer. Now, I know most people name their aircraft, so do you name your babies?
Oh, yeah. So my Lancer Legacy's name is Lucky Girl.
Okay. Lucky Girl.
I race her at Reno. So it's Lucky Girl Air Racing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And the Extra is Little Purple, because there were two Extras built and painted in the same paint scheme.
Okay.
So one was Big Purple and the other was
Little Purple.
And I owned both of them at one time. Rocky Hill owned both of them at one time. I still own Little Purple. And the Stearman, most people don't know its name, but its name is Scarlet. Scarlet,
oh,
yeah. So it's
I
kind of the
that.
Scarlet Stearman, so it seems fitting.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Those are all beautiful names. Yeah. I was just curious, does everyone name their aircraft? And, we named our aircraft, and we're going to go through a name change. Obviously, identity crisis, but...
Well, the race planes always get named.
Okay.
So at Reno, all the race planes have names. All the race teams have names, so... If the plane races at Reno, pretty much has a name. I mean, occasionally there's some that are just like Race 8.
It's too boring. You
same.
need a Lucky Lady or something exciting.
Yeah. So there's some good names out there. Yeah.
Okay, sounds fair. So going to racing, so let's take it back. You started...
Well, the race planes always get named.
Okay.
So at Reno, all the race planes have names. All the race teams have names. So if the plane races at Reno, pretty much has a name. I mean, occasionally there's some that are just like Race 8.
It's too boring. You need a Lucky Lady or something exciting.
Yeah. So there's some good names out there. Yeah.
Okay, sounds fair. So going to racing, so let's take it back. You started you got your pilot's license. Then did you go into competition flying?
Yeah. So when I got my pilot's license, I got it in 1941 Taylorcraft, and at the time, I had to learn to do spins because they were part of the private pilot rating.
Yeah.
And my instructor was a former military instructor, so he taught me how to loop and roll the airplane, and I was like in hog heaven. And so after I got my private pilot's license, I took a 10-hour aerobatic course from Amelia Reed at Reed Hillview Airport, and I did that, and I was very enthusiastic about the aerobatics, but I didn't own an aerobatic airplane. And my first airplane was a Luscombe, and I used to loop and roll the Luscombe until one day I read that some guy near Columbia ripped the wings off of his Luscombe, and I decided that would not be a good idea.
Bad idea.
So I stopped doing that, and I got busy with my career, and many, many years went by, and I took a ride with Wayne Hanley in his Extra.
Okay.
And Wayne tumbled the airplane, and I was like, okay, I got to do this. And,
this is for me.
And Wayne goes, oh, this is going to be a really expensive ride for you, isn't it? And sure enough, I think within a month of that ride, I went out and bought an extra. And then I did a bunch of training with Wayne, and then later with some of the coaches to do competition aerobatics. So Wayne kind of got me into competition aerobatics, and I flew sportsman, then intermediate, and then advanced, and at the same time, Wayne got me to do my first air show, and eventually I transitioned from the competition flying to the air show flying.
Was that an easy transition, or was it kind of just like the natural progression to go from competition into?
For me, it was a natural progression.
Okay.
The competition flying, it taught me so much that I don't even know how people fly air shows without learning competition first, because it teaches you how to fly in a box for judges, keep things centered. It teaches you all kinds of how to fly the figures properly so that you rotate or correctly around the line and don't do even though if you're an airshow pilot, you want to do the wacky stuff, you really need to know how to do things properly. And competition, you start out at a higher level and you work down to lower levels as you get better, and as you build skills, and so it's a safe way to learn aerobatics. And I would encourage anybody who's wants to do aerobatics to go first get some training, get some spin training, for all the unusual attitudes that you could end up in, and then go join the International Aerobatic Club and fly some competitions, and you'll learn from your peers, and they'll tell you how badly you flew, and it's all great fun. You meet great people, and then eventually, contests are you pay to go there, you buy your hotel room, you pay for a rental car, and they tell you how crappy you flew. And air shows are, they want you to come, they pay for your hotel room, they pay for your car, they pay you, and they tell you how wonderful you are. So it seemed like kind of a natural transition.
And it seems like just two different perspectives, two different sides of the spectrum. So would you say you're an adrenaline junkie? Because you went from competition to air shows to Reno to skydiving. You're a woman of many trades.
I guess so. Okay. I don't really think of myself that way.
Okay.
I really don't do things that I don't know how to do or haven't practiced 1,000 times. So I take very calculated risks. I'm not a risk taker.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever been to a casino in my life and gambled.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm just not a risk taker. So maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie, but it's not a risk taker.
So it's a safe adrenaline.
I don't know what it is, but
safer option.
But I'm a scientist, so maybe a little bit of that reflects on my personality. I don't know.
Absolutely. No, these are all interesting. I'm with my husband. I'm learning so much. I'm growing in the industry myself. So to meet individuals such as yourself, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of things are making sense. So. That's amazing.
Yeah, so going back to the competition versus air show, I have tremendous respect for the competition pilots, because it's very precise flying, and it takes a lot of dedication. They're really purists for the aerobatics. Where air show is really much more about entertaining and about bringing the message of aviation and sharing the passion of aviation with other people. And for me, that's really the rewarding part is sharing that passion, especially with the young people. And it's very humbling when you get a letter from some young girl that said, "Hey, I met you at an air show, and this is what I'm doing now because I met you." And so I think there's truly nothing really more rewarding that we could do in our lives than to be able to positively influence other people.
And we actually met a young girl who was she was sitting by the plane. She was, just talking to us. My husband put her in the plane, and, the smile and just the light in her eyes was amazing. And she wants to become an airshow pilot. She was talking about it, and we mentioned certain things. We're like, okay, so what piece of advice would you give to someone at that age, who wants to get into air shows, who wants to become an airshow performer?
I would just say, go follow your dreams, and don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't do something, because you can. If you just have to believe in yourself. Airplane.
I know. And this is what happens at live events, ladies and gentlemen. Once the air show starts, you got to keep rolling with it.
Yeah.
We're trying to do an interview here. Well, that was
I would just say the most important thing is to believe in yourself.
Okay.
Right. That's the most important thing for anybody who wants to do something. Is just
believe
really
in yourself.
believe in yourself and believe in your passion and your right to do something.
Okay. Let me give it a moment. I do have a fun question.
So I think that's a woman in aviation.
Oh.
That's probably, is that the F-35?
I think so.
That's Bayo. And she is something. She
oh my gosh.
flies the heck out of that airplane.
I need to get in touch with Bayo, but she's the hardest person to reach. But
I think
that's on my
she'd probably be
list.
pretty hard, especially right now.
Especially right now. I don't think I can reach her up there.
Yeah.
Before she flies by, I did have a fun question, and I usually ask this, like, when you prep for an air show, what are your let's do top 4, top 5 must-have items in your aircraft? Because do you fly from show to show in your aircraft?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So what do you, like, if you could only carry 5 things, and I'll give you time to think as she passes, what would be the 5 top items that you would pack? Only 5 items that you're limited to.
Yeah.
2, 3.
Well, does that include the stuff that's already in the airplane, like the GPS?
Okay, whatever is attached to the aircraft stays in the aircraft.
Okay, yeah. Well, for the Stearman, I mean, that's pretty easy. It's so cold going anywhere in that airplane, so I absolutely need to have a warm helmet and goggles.
Okay.
And I now wear these off-road motorcycle goggles to protect my eyes. I've gotten smart about that.
Okay.
I wear a neck gaiter to keep the wind off my face and neck.
Okay.
And then I wear 2 jackets. Yeah.
I love this. You can't get this anywhere else, ladies and gentlemen. So is that 5 items?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
so 2 jackets.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you're only.
Yeah.
You're going somewhere. For only 5 items, those would be it.
Yeah. No. I mean, it would not, unless it's a really hot day, it would not be comfortable to be flying that airplane from a show to another show without those items.
Okay. Awesome.
Sounds boring, but
yeah, no. If that's what your go-to, that's what you're.
And you don't want water because you got to stop and land and use the restroom.
All right. So I guess we won't count that.
I can do without food, but being cold is really bad.
Yeah, I'd rather be hot than cold. So I love the heat. Well, Vicki, thank you for talking with us. Thank you for being on the Wonder Woman of Aviation. You are a true inspiration. I tried. I love this, though. This is amazing. This is real life.
Wants an interview. She's circling.
I think that's a hint. You know what? You need to interview me.
Yeah.
I was like trying to count it. I'm like, that's.
Yeah, she tears up the skies. She's amazing.
She's amazing. Thank you for being on the Wonder Woman of
Thank
Aviation.
you.
I hope to follow up sometime.
Thank you for coming by to talk to me.
Oh yeah, no, I was a little bit nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm an introvert myself, so hey.
That's me.
But sometimes you need to put in that costume.
It does get easier. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, so absolutely. Well, thank you, and for those of you joining us, we'll see you next time on the Wonder Woman of Aviation.